Tonight, police seized more than 500 street deals worth of ice from a Whyalla property, and the feds asked the state government to explain its plans to duplicate Port Augusta's Joy Balut Bridge.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. Police have seized 56 grams of the drug ice from a Whyalla property that was destined for the town's streets. A 34-year-old man has been arrested, and officers say despite its size, the drugs would have had a significant impact on the community.
It may only be 2 ounces, but that's too many that could have reached our city streets. Police seized a quantity late last week after receiving a tip-off.
There's a zero-tolerance approach to drug use and drug dealing in Whyalla. We are increasing our resources in our technical team to really focus in and zero in on drug users and drug dealers.
$9 grand in cash was also seized during the raid. Police estimate the haul would have been enough for over 550 street deals.
One street deal is approximately 0.1 gram of the drug. So 560 street deals would come from 56 grams.
The arrest comes as police throw extra resources into fighting the war against meth in regional areas, including sniffer dogs. Dealers are being warned officers will be knocking on their door at a moment's notice.
You never know when that drug dog is in town. We'll be requesting the dog from Adelaide more often. So a message there to any drug users or drug dealers, be on the lookout because the dog could be knocking on your door.
A 34-year-old man faced Whyalla court on trafficking charges and was remanded in custody until his next appearance in February. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
3 people have been killed after a horrific 2-car smash on the Spencer Highway near Maitland. A 59-year-old man from Moonta who was driving a Toyota sedan and a 72-year-old man from Flagstaff Hill who was driving a ute both died in the collision just before 5 yesterday afternoon. A third man, an 82-year-old, was airlifted to the Royal Adelaide with serious injuries, but sadly died late last night. The road toll now stands at 91 compared to 79 at the same time last year. Government says it's waiting for the state government to provide the plans for Port Augusta's Joy Balut Bridge duplication. It says the state government needs to address the pedestrian walkway safety issue first.
This morning, a transportable house brought the crossroads of Australia to a halt. With the alternate route, Yorkeys Crossing, closed for a rail upgrade, Port Augusta's Bridge was the only way through. It's a classic case as to why local leaders say it needs to be duplicated.
I'm very happy that they've discovered the Port Augusta Bridge issue. And I want to see a movement on it as quickly as possible.
While the state government is offering a 20% share for the $200 million project, the federal government needs to cough up its 80% piece of the pie. In response, it's challenging the state government to provide detailed bridge duplication plans.
Please let me know, because I'm all in favour of a second bridge and I want to know how we're going to do it. And that we can be part of it.
With private land and businesses in the way, Mr Ramsey says the bridge duplication will take time, and as a matter of priority, pedestrian safety needs to be addressed.
I'm not aware of any negotiations, for instance, with private landholders there, and I think there would be some pretty major inconvenience, some premises, some businesses that may have to go.
Federal Infrastructure Minister Darren Chester walked on the bridge himself last month and says the State Infrastructure Minister needs to act now for local safety. The State Infrastructure Minister was not available for comment. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
Broken Hill locals are getting behind a push for the introduction of a drug rehabilitation service in the town. The Silver City's problem with drugs continues to grow, and doctors say a dedicated service in town could help beat the scourge.
A community campaign to help fight addiction.
It's something that's desperately needed.
There's no doubt drugs and alcohol are becoming significant in criminal matters and social matters. And those wanting to kick their addiction are often forced to travel to Adelaide or Sydney.
For someone in the turmoil of drug addiction to go uproot themselves and go that far away is often too much of a decision to make, and therefore those rehabilitation services are not being accessed.
Miss Story is calling for a non-race-based rehabilitation service in Broken Hill that accepts men and women. Local GPs agree.
More importantly, if we need to have services that we require, not services that politicians or others think would benefit us. If the community is asking for something, such as drug and alcohol rehabilitation service that's of an inpatient service in this town, I'll wholeheartedly support that.
A meeting will be held at the University Department of Rural Health next month to discuss the matter. Ms Story wants to form a working party to write a submission to the New South Wales Parliament.
We don't want, the whole idea of a rehabilitation service in Broken Hill to remain a pie in the sky. We want to get real, we want to get political, and we want to get a rehabilitation centre here.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The Barunga village in Port Broughton has taken home an award for its revolutionary model for caring for dementia patients. The unique treatment focuses on the emotions of people living with the disease by replicating a home-like environment.
It's a groundbreaking model of dementia care, and now the Barunga village has been recognised as one of the leaders in the industry.
We were awarded the Dementia Care Excellence Award at the South Australian Community Achievement Awards on Friday night.
Staff no longer wear uniforms or push medicine trolleys, which they say allows for a special connection to be formed with the people living in the house.
It's great acknowledgement of all the hard work that everyone here at Barunga has put in to make this dream come true and to see the quality of life for the people living here.
Now that we've experienced this, we could never go back. It's just really, it's a really loving way to be with people and to care for people.
The model awarded for focusing on the needs and feelings of people living with dementia instead of a traditional clinical environment.
We now know that people with behaviours are often expressing a feeling or an unmet need, so if we can tap into that feeling, we can better meet their needs.
The model has been recognised for giving a sense of normality back into their day-to-day lives.
They become part of the household. It's a very family-orientated model where staff and families sit and dine with their loved one.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, more time behind bars for violent criminals who tried to escape from the Port Augusta prison. Details next. After a failed attempt to escape the Port Augusta prison last year, 3 violent criminals are set to face more time behind bars. Amelia Simpson has more.
Already serving time for violent crimes, the 3 notorious prisoners who attempted to escape the Port Augusta prison last year will now face more time. While the prison upgrade was underway, the 3 prisoners managed to tunnel under a temporary construction fence before hot-wiring a truck. Their intentions were to drive through a perimeter fence to the world outside, but that was short-lived when the truck became bogged. The trio climbed scaffolding and entered a 5-hour standoff with prison staff before being taken back into custody. The Advertiser reports Judge Stephen McEwen described the escape attempt as unsophisticated. A spokesperson from the Department for Correctional Services confirmed to Southern Cross News that the 3 prisoners had their sentences and non-parole periods extended. They've been convicted of attempted escape, driving or using a motor vehicle without consent and damaging a building or motor vehicle. 51-year-old notorious rapist Trevor Brooks, already serving a 29-year sentence, has had his sentence extended by 7 months. His accomplices, armed robber Scott Charters, will now face an extra 10 months, 3 weeks and 4 days. Benjamin Glenn, who was locked up for 16 years after assaulting 2 women and a stabbing, will now face an extra year.
Whyalla Council has voted to formally support the state government initiative to build a new $100 million public high school, but it's asking for detailed plans for the current campuses, saying it doesn't want them abandoned.
Whyalla's new public high school is being hailed as a game changer for local education, and it's certainly gathering momentum. City Council was the latest organisation to formally commit support for the bold project. After a lengthy debate, last night it voted to send an official letter to the government backing the proposal.
We want to thank the state government for that confidence in our community. It's a great asset for our community, and I've heard nothing but good news about this.
But Council will also use the letter to urge the government to learn from history on previous closures. There's fears a repeat of the closure of McRitchie Crescent Primary School could happen, which was left to rot.
We do need to talk to the state government about this. We want to be ensured that there will be a future for those properties, that they won't be left derelict. They're very prominent positions.
Early ideas for rejuvenating the empty sites could include transforming Eyre High into a sports precinct, while Whyalla High's heritage building could also become a multi-use space.
So it is up to us to make sure that the Education Department does the right thing by the community and has a
Coles is rolling out a new shopping experience for customers. From today, 68 supermarkets across the country, including one in Port Pirie, will be rolling out Quiet Hour. From 10:30 to 11:30am every Tuesday, store lights will be dimmed, music will be turned off and register noises reduced. Coles says it's to help customers on the autism spectrum to enjoy a comfortable shopping experience. Whyalla's Good Samaritan Inn has received an early Christmas present from the steelwork operators. GFG Alliance has donated its $500 prize money for winning Employee of the Year at the Chamber of Commerce Awards to the group. Volunteers from the Whyalla Catholic Parish come together each Monday to open a restaurant for those looking for a warm meal and some company.
This cheque will just make us be able to continue the service for another month. You know, we can make sure we provide really good meals.
With the festive season just around the corner, GFG says it's proud the service can help those less fortunate have a good meal. The state government has used Port Lincoln's coastal backdrop to announce this year's record food and wine revenue. The $19 billion cash injection is largely due to increases in the state's seafood and agriculture industries.
In place to make sure it doesn't happen.
An economic splash for SA.
An extra $1 billion into our economy and more importantly into our workers who are in the fishing and farming industries.
The state today hit a revenue benchmark with nearly $20 billion produced from land and sea. Our Tourism Minister met at the heart of both industries to celebrate National Agriculture Day.
Everyone on the Eyre Peninsula is rightfully proud of what happens here on land and on sea.
Port Lincoln's seafood trade makes up a major slice of the economic pie. Its prawn industry is ramping up as Christmas approaches, and this year it pays to be a South Aussie. Prawn shortages are crippling the East Coast.
We're on target to catch that either this trip or we'll go out again pre-December and catch whatever's remaining.
The same can't be said for grain farmers. After 6 years of bumper harvests, this season will be slightly below par.
The season only broke for us late June, early July, so we've had a really tough year.
It's a far cry from the disaster forecast early in the season.
Crops have surprised us in regards to how they performed, and I think that's in relation to the technology that we have in our farming systems these days. Sort of escaped very well the season that could have been.
The Eyre Peninsula again recognised as the forefront of SA's primary industries and a hidden gem from the rest of the state.
Less than 10% of Adelaide people have ever been to Eyre Peninsula, which I reckon is a disgrace.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Stay with us. After the break, Broken Hill Police urging motorists to take extra care on the roads this holiday season. Well, as the holiday season approaches, Broken Hill Police are urging everyone to be safe behind the wheel. Speeding, drink driving and driver inattention are three major things coppers will be targeting.
For many people living abroad, heading back home for Christmas is an annual journey. But police say it's important to get there in one piece.
It is devastating at any time, but particularly at a festive time, to lose someone in a nasty car accident, either being killed or seriously injured.
In December, police will be running Operation Safe Arrival, aimed at making sure holiday makers are using the road safely.
Police will be targeting drink driving, drug driving, fatigue, speeding and the wearing of seatbelts.
It seems mobile phone distraction continues to be a major cause of car accidents. While Highway Patrol will be on the lookout for speeders, all officers now have the ability to test for drugs and drink driving from their squad cars.
We need to be reminded, alcohol and drugs, just don't do it.
Police say it's also very important to rest during long trips, stop, revive and survive.
Do not finish work at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, load the family up and think that you can drive 5 hours to Adelaide or 5 hours, 6 hours back to the east. Plan your trip, have an early start the following day and get there safely.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Turning to sport now, and in Port Lincoln basketball, Lincoln South had a big win over top-ranked Tasman Red. Jason Kemp joins us with the sport highlights. Jason, the competition is beginning to narrow heading towards summer.
Right, Fraser, the Reds were left all but red-faced, going down to Lincoln South by 14 points. South's Ben Shillabeer scoring a game-high 23 in a one-sided demolition. Tasman Red led South to the bucket early, opening with a 16-point first quarter, but the Reds were forced onto the back foot as South began to find their range. The up-front partnership of Shillabeer and Jake Horton proving a game-winning combination, the pair finishing with 34 points, placing Lincoln South just a game behind top spot. In the other match, the Whites overcame Waybacks by 5 points to notch their first win of the season. In Port Pirie, the Globetrotters had a 24-point win over the Tomcats, while the Ducks went down to the Pacers by 10. Meanwhile, in Whyalla, the Demons defeated Bevan by 14 points, and in a buzzer beater, the Wildcats edged out Rupina by just 2. Turning to Broken Hill, the free ballers kept momentum swinging, easily accounting for the Suns by 25 points, while the Ramjets rocketed a 27-point buffer over the Rels. Harley's team had a tough day on court, going down to Something Boys. Moving to Broken Hill tennis, the top spin shot past the backhands, the drop shots narrowly defeated the Swallows, and the forehands aced the volleys for a chance at top spot. Over to softball in Whyalla, the Eagles had a close win over the Roadrunners, while the Spears hit one out of the park against the Tigers. And lastly, in baseball, the Indians hit a home run against the Roadrunners. Well, that's it for another week of sport, but we'll be back on Friday with our expert cricket tippers from around the regions. And if you've got some local sporting results you want seen on TV, make sure you drop us a line at localsport@sca.com.au.
Good on you, Jace. Jason Kemp reporting there. Well, stay with us after the break. Abby Donaldson will have your local weather details. And Abby, it's looking like the heat is here to stay, but a change is certainly on the way.
That's right, Fraser. It's going to be a hot one, but also wet. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. Let's take a look at the weather. Well, it certainly felt like summer across the region today, with the mercury rising into the high 30s in some centres. It was a scorcher in Port Augusta, 37 the top, slightly cooler, and 35 was the top for Whyalla, similar temps for Port Pirie, and a warm 30 degrees for Port Lincoln. On the satellite, a massive cloud cover around southern and eastern parts with a low pressure trough is causing areas of thundery showers and patchy rain. On the Gulf waters, west-southwesterly winds tomorrow up to 15 knots, seas at a metre with a south-southwesterly swell, and the sun will pop up just before 6:05 and sunsets at 8:06. We're in for another hot day tomorrow, but temps will be slightly cooler as a change brings showers and rain for most centres. 33 is the magic number for Port Augusta, Corn, Broken Hill and Port Pirie. It'll reach a max of 27 for Port Lincoln and Woodner, and it will be cooler in Cleve, 26 and 30 for Clare. Looking ahead, rain is on the way for all centres, cooling down to just 21 on Thursday and 21 for Friday in Port Lincoln, 22 the top to end the working week in Cleve and 24 in Woodner. But the good news is the weather is expected to fine up for Saturday. A similar story further up the Gulf, cooling down to the mid-20s with some rain about in Whyalla on Thursday and Friday before the sunshine returns. Much cooler and dropping down to 25 on Thursday in Port Augusta, while the rain is expected to hang around into Saturday for Kadina. And finally, in Port Pirie, it will drop down to the mid-20s by the end of the week, with showers predicted for Thursday and Friday. Rainy and just 21 degrees on Thursday in Clare. And despite the wet weather, it will remain warm in Broken Hill with temps around the 30s into the weekend. So, Fraser, it's looking like that brolly will come in handy for the rest of the week.
Thanks, Abby. It certainly will. And that's the news for this Tuesday. Thanks for your company. Don't forget you can keep up to date with us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also watch any of our bulletins. Just head to gtsbkn.com.au. I'll have some news breaks later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.